On September 26, 2022, Fatiha Marzan, a 21-year-old college student raised in a strict religious family, confessed to stabbing her sister in the heart and watching her die. The motive behind this heinous act was her sister's involvement with her online boyfriend.
Do you have any pictures of Joseph on your phone? Like of him?
Not many, but yes.
Okay. I'm just curious as to what this person looks like.
Viewers speculated, was Joseph a catfish? Fatiha had only met Joseph one time and only had one photo of him within a 5-year time frame. We were able to get the interview of Joseph, and I must say, the details are shocking.
Today's date is October 10th, 2022. The time now is approximately 13:19 hours. This is in reference to Orange County homicide case number 22-059833. I'm currently located street in Chapel Hill, North Carolina 27517 in a vehicle speaking with, can you state your name?
Joseph.
Okay. Also in the vehicle with me is my partner, Detective Carlos Robles. Joseph, Joseph.
Joseph, yes.
Yep. And birthday. Okay. And we are outside of your residence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're in apartment, is it?
301.
301. Okay. All right. So we spoke on the phone last week in reference to having a conversation. I would like to understand from your point of view the relationship that you had with both Fatiha, and I believe you call her something else, and then also the relationship you had with Sima, right?
Yes.
Sima.
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't mind kind of explaining, even like, and what I mean by explaining, like, when did you meet Fatiha? Like, what was your relationship? When did you meet Sima? What was your relationship type deal?
Well, I have very splotchy memory at best. Samia, or Fatiha, really was the one remembering everything for me. Samia.
Okay. How would you spell that?
Samya.
Samya. Don't you spell Sima?
Sima's Sayma. I know it's very similar.
Very similar. Okay. I just want to make sure I had the spelling correct.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me the memory that you do have of you and Fatiha. How'd you meet? Start there.
It was, I want to say around 2016, maybe 2017.
Okay.
And I was in a rough spot mentally. I was really I like talking to new people and just kind of interacting with new people. And so I was looking through some old group chats I was in on Skype, I believe.
Okay.
And she was one of them. And we started talking, and usually, and I've done this a couple times before, and they don't normally go anywhere really, but it was just very, I guess, natural. I mean, I could tell immediately we're very similar mentally, I guess, personality-wise, and I mean, we mostly texted at the time. She was still very shy to be on the phone and stuff and show her face and things like that, and which I would find out later is because she was, I guess, wary or embarrassed about being Muslim and stuff online. She was just kind of very anxious about people knowing that she's Muslim online and stuff.
Okay.
But we started calling and talking over the phone, and we talked a whole lot. At one point, I really did enjoy talking to her, and yeah, I could tell she really enjoyed talking to me. that I was starting to get the feeling that it was gonna be something. It was gonna be something more permanent for her, or I guess would want me to be more of a part in her life. And especially at this time, my kind of life plan at the time was to end my own life in a couple years. And she was a really great person, really funny and really sweet, and I didn't want to drag her kind of down that road with me. And so I tried breaking things off with her for a while, but also I kind of, I guess, did it sloppily because she also didn't really have any friends at the time, and so I tried introducing her to my friends so that she would have some friends, but then it turned into a thing where I'm trying to let her go, and she's really upset about it, and I guess basically she wouldn't let me go.
Okay. Was this all in 2016, 2017, or is this later, years later?
I would say this was all around recent. I talked with her I'd say we met around 16 and maybe around 17.
Okay.
This kind of stuff happened.
And you're saying recently you were trying to let her go?
No. Back then.
Oh, okay.
And I gave up on that. In the end, she convinced me that.
Okay. To stay together.
Yes, and I told her, because I always tried to be upfront about things, and I always had this weird, I guess, unusual, or I guess more than average kind of distaste for lying, I guess, even like small lies.
You don't like it?
I don't like lies.
Okay.
And so, I told her, it's like, hey, I told her, like, why I was trying not to talk to her anymore. I was like, hey, regardless of whether we're talking or not, over these next few years, I'm probably still gonna do it, and we talked, and it ended with her saying, it's like, all right, but, at least, I'll be there before you do it. And I guess I don't know, I guess I just got talked into thinking that was fine. We talked for a while. I'd say, maybe like 2 more years, 3 more years maybe, till 2019.
Okay.
Maybe it was 18. It was I don't remember the exact dates for everything, but I met Saima later. Over text.
Do you remember when, approximately?
I can't really say. Because I think the 3 of us might have also been in a group chat, and then I might have talked with her occasionally. I don't remember exactly when we started talking.
Okay, no problem.
But I would say somewhere between 2019 and 17, somewhere around there, maybe 18. And it was just, I told Fatiha that, I wasn't really looking for anything. And from the very beginning, I told her I wasn't really looking for anything serious and official. I was just, my whole plan was just, to enjoy myself for the next couple of years, and then once I don't think I can anymore, just disappear, kind of thing. And she knew that, and so I kind of just did whatever I felt like basically.
Okay.
And I started talking with her sister, and at the time, it was just like, oh, she's cool, she's just fun to talk to. And
Would you say you began talking to Sima more like one-on-one? Not in the group messages
yes,
anymore?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And you were still talking with Fatiha as well?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there were still, on my part, no real feelings or anything at that time.
For Sima?
For Sima, yeah.
Okay.
And I was just, just talking for fun. And we ended up stopping talking because while Samya knew the situation with me, everyone just from how we were together now, because we were very close, everyone just kind of assumed that we were a thing. And I mean, I guess kind of, I don't know, but
Who assumed you were a thing? Everyone assumed you and Sima were a thing?
me and Samya,
Samya. Okay.
because of how close we were.
Okay.
And I mean, it kind of was, it actually, it was for a while, now that I'm remembering it, a thing, but I told her that, look, like, you really can leave, like, I'm not, I mean, if anything, you should leave, like, I'm not gonna be much for you, I don't really have anything to give you, and for her, just like, I just really like you being there, and so it's like, alright, well, it got to a point, around, I don't know, I think around 2019, where Sima started developing something for me.
Okay.
And I told her, it's like, I'm not looking for anything, like, and so we stopped talking for a bit, and because I talked to Sama's sister, she knew that this wasn't really something that she wanted to mess with, and so we stopped talking, and we started talking again later. Maybe we stopped talking in 2020 and started talking again in 2021.
Okay.
I want to say maybe in May, around there, because she was having issues with her ex-boyfriend, and at the time it was just me, just helping her get through a hard time for her, because she was really, she was in a lot of pain, I guess, and I just wanted to be there for her and as a friend, and so we talked, and we talked all the time, and and I think before this point, me and Samya, we would say stuff like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like going back and forth and jumping.
It's okay. You're fine.
It's all coming like in pieces.
It's okay. I can piece it together.
Before this, in the beginning of me and Samya talking, we would say things like, like, I love you and all that, or
Okay.
or basically the same, just in a different way, and I'd stopped saying it, and as I told you earlier, I'm very indecisive and very, I guess, skeptical of everything,
Okay.
and I'd say especially of myself, my mind, my intentions. I'm constantly doubting myself. And so I told her, I don't really feel comfortable saying these things and being that way because I don't know if I mean it the same way that you do, because I just don't know if I'm in the same place as you when it comes to this. And so I didn't want to, like I said, I hate lying. I didn't want it to feel like lying to her and myself, and so I told her, and I guess that was the start of the decline, I guess, and how close in that way we were to each other. But yeah, so after that was when, around in May, when Saima and we were talking, and I was helping her get through her thing, and we talked a lot, and I started to really enjoy her company and stuff, and I went from her being, I guess, just a friend that was fun to talk to like I really care about her,
and that developed over, I would assume, time from like May of 2020. That took time to start caring for her and conversating, or do you feel like it was like a quick turnaround?
I'd say it took time. I mean, I think it just kept growing.
Okay.
I guess how much I'd realized that I care for her.
Okay.
And because there was a long time where I wanted to believe and convince myself that it wasn't anything, because I know how much that Samya cares for me and how much she's done for me, and and I really, because she was a very hard worker. She worked many hours, and I didn't get a job yet. Because the whole time the idea was we're gonna move in soon, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna
With Fatiha?
With Fatiha, yeah. It's like, well, I'm gonna get my driver's license, and I'll get my GED, and and then I'll go down there as soon as all that's done.
And were these plans that you had with her like recent plans?
Yes. I'll get into that, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember where it was and how to continue it. But yeah, I guess the more we talked, the more it grew into like I really want to talk to this person every day also. And she wasn't exactly the same as Samya, obviously, and I still, even though I was starting to accept how much I cared for her, I still knew that me and Samya, Fatiha, she was the most compatible person I've ever met, in terms of like just everything, and for a while I cared about them both a lot,
Right.
and for a while I delusionally and stupidly tried to see if I could, and I told him about it. Well, after me and Saima, we're talking more and more, and Samya, I'll call her Fatiha from now on, so it doesn't sound as confusing. And Fatiha knew we were talking, but didn't know that it was growing into something more. And I wasn't gonna say anything yet, because I was still thinking that I might just fizzle out and then become nothing, as like everything else does, just like doesn't really matter. And so but it didn't. And then Samya found out, I think over like a Spotify playlist or something that me and Sama had, and which was fine because it was due time that we'd talk about it anyways. And so we talked about it, and like I said earlier, my plan was to kind of commit suicide after a couple years, and that was my plan for a while. But during this time, I was thinking that it would be such a, I guess, a waste, or that would be, I guess, a waste, and just be very silly to have during this time, when I was talking to both of them, I actually thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad living longer, and this was something that I didn't really feel before. And so in my head, it's like, well, if I live longer also, this would kind of benefit everyone. And for a short while, I tried to see if we could make a polygamous relationship. Obviously both of them are way too possessive over that, or for that, and this is normally not something any average person would be okay with that, and I knew that, and I did try to make it not so jarring for everyone, but it was never gonna work. And there were multiple times when Saima wanted to leave. It's like, well, I know how much my sister likes you, and I feel bad, doing this to her. And me, I kept convincing her to stay because I thought that something could work out, or that it was hard to get the idea out of my mind that there might be something there. And this kind of went back and forth for a bit until it wasn't 2020 that she came, it was 2021, I believe. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's a gap missing. But a couple months ago, it got to a point where I did want to see. Well, I think me and Saima was gonna try just being friends and stuff, but neither of us could really shake out the idea. And because Saima knew that, or Saima, I guess, expressed how much she cared for me. But I, being, so very self-doubtful, I wasn't completely sure, and so I didn't want to I just wasn't sure, I guess. And it got to a point where even if I just completely cut her off, while I'm talking to Fatiha and living with her and stuff, I'm gonna be thinking about like what could have been, and what if there was something more for me there, because Sama made me feel different, I guess. And even though Samya was so, I guess, objectively perfect for me, there was just something about Sama that made me feel something else, and it was something that I couldn't ignore. And so I had a talk with Fatiha about it a couple months ago, that I thought it would be in our best interest if I tried to start something with Saima first, because I mean, if I don't, I'm gonna be thinking about it, and I guess I would have felt really uncomfortable living with Fatiha, knowing how much she cares for me and stuff, but all the while I'm thinking about someone else and what could have happened. And so I just felt really dishonest, and so I told her, just like, I want to at least try, and if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Me and Sama get our closure from that. I get my closure, and I get to, I guess, to live more comfortably with Fatiha, knowing that it's fine, it was never going to work out anyways, and this was how it should have been. I don't know, it's just, the way I saw it at the time was just, any outcome that happened, it would have been for the better for most people, either getting closure or the ending they wanted. And so I was talking with her about it, and obviously they live in Florida, and I live up here, and I was planning on moving down there, but since me and Fatiha were, gonna move in and stuff, it would be weird for, us to move in and then for me to date her sister, and so we talked about it, and I was saying, it's like, well, we could talk online, but I mean, we've been doing that for a while, and we know that's fine, but I feel like truly just to see, we want to meet in person and stuff like that. And obviously Fatiha was saving up for the move, and I have some money. I haven't really been spending any of my money, and then I was getting I guess myself in order so that I could just easily get a job, or more easily get a job when I'm in Florida and pay my part. And I was telling her, like, since I don't really have anything right now, I'm gonna have to. I know it would be weird for me to ask you, to let me live with you through this, and so she was like, okay, I guess she wanted me to just go ahead and get over with, because I was calling it a trial period, which is really not really a great way to put it. It was just just to see. And so I was telling her, well, it's gonna take a lot longer then, because I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna get a job up here, and I'll have to save up some money, and so it will take a lot longer. And she didn't like that, and we kind of talked about it, and with her approval, because up until this point, I guess we've been less and less interacting as romantic interests, and a lot of it was just on friendly terms, or I guess we were friendly towards each other. And we were friends, but I know we were more than that for her. So like during this talk, I was telling her, it's like, I want to make sure, like me and you, and that, just officially, like, we're just friends. And I still didn't, I guess, but yeah, and we talked about it, and like, neither of us were after like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That wasn't the thing we wanted. It was just each other's company. And like, I was fine with just being best friends with her, and and she would have been fine with it too, but I know it's the fact that there was someone else that would potentially take the number one spot from her that really made her upset. But I figured, when we move in, that maybe I'll change my mind. When we move in, maybe I'll realize that Samia, or Fatiha, is the one. And I was really just, after we talked, I was really just banking on the move, or on the move in, because I just thought at least everything would just be a lot clearer or make more sense then. And if not, and if I'm just wasting time, like, I don't enjoy being a leech, and so I would have paid my share, I guess that's irrelevant. I'm trying to think of what else. But yeah, this happened when we talked about this, the moving in and the trial period and all that. This was a month, 2 months ago. So somewhat recent. And I knew she wasn't happy about it, but I figured for everyone to move on, this would be, I guess, the best. In my head, I thought it would be the best option to take.
Okay, so it seemed like she was still wanted to move forward with your plan of the two of you to move in together, even though technically you were on a break and not in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And then you would continue to see what was potential with Sima.
Yeah. Sima.
Even though, like, you may have been living with her, like,
yeah,
but you wanted Fatiha to understand that. And
yeah,
so at first you were like, oh, well, maybe I'll stay here and figure that out. But she encouraged you to continue with your guys' original plan?
Well,
or
she didn't encourage me. It was just me. I was just letting her know, that I wouldn't expect her to be okay, with us moving in, while I try to see, if there's a connection between me and her sister.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very,
And what did she say to that?
She didn't say something to that directly, because I was saying this, like, I was saying how, that's a very absurd thing to ask of someone,
Okay, so you're just like
and-
making a statement.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but that paired with I know that is absurd, and so like I'm not gonna ask you or say that we should still move in, but just so like I I'm gonna take longer here than to go down there and stuff. And we talked about it, and I try to be honest about it, and I was just trying to do what I thought was right, but it as I'm trying to say this, it does sound, I guess, kind of manipulative. That I was telling us, obviously I wouldn't expect any rational person to do that. But I also told her that I do think, that there are some merits if we moved in anyways, because it would happen a lot sooner, and get it over with, and that maybe I'll, after living with her, I'll change my mind about something. I was just very confused and very doubting of myself, and I figured the sooner it happens, the less pain for everyone. And she agreed. I'm trying to think of.
Did you ever meet Fatiha?
Yes, we met a couple years ago over the summer. It might have been 19. Because I moved down I visited Miami to see my friends. So my family went down there also, but on the way back up, we're passing by Orlando, and so I met Fatiha.
Okay. Did you ever meet Simon?
No, we were going to.
What are the main ways that you communicated with Fatiha about all this?
On call for a lot of this. I mean, we talked mainly every day over Discord. I mean, we pretty much every single day we talked to each other. I mean, I talked to both of them every single day.
Okay. But with Fatiha, what was like you said you talked on the phone and Discord?
Yes.
And when you say Discord, you played games and communicated, or just used the messaging app?
We just talked mainly.
Okay.
Sometimes we'd watch shows together and eat, and
Okay.
we've played random games here and there, but
Okay. And then you and Sima, how did you guys communicate?
the same way. I guess, but more we would talk over the phone, with my number more so than Discord calling. We still messaged on Discord. This is why I was asking about the article, because the article framed it as if Valorant had a major play in it, or if it was relevant at all, and it really wasn't. It was just.
You didn't really talk on Valorant?
It was just a game we'd play sometimes. We'd hop on, maybe play like two. I mean, Valorant wasn't even out when I met Sima, and when we were talking, and I mean, we'd play a couple games here and there.
Okay, so it's more for playing games together and not trying to actually communicate. It was just
There was nothing relevant about Valorant when it comes to, I mean, in games in general, I guess, when it comes to this. It was just another place. I mean, we'd play other games too. So I'm not really sure how that one kind of got.
Well, I guess so. It's I look at it as how do you guys communicate? So do you text? Do you call? Do you message each other in Valorant? Do you message each other in Discord? Do you message each other on Snapchat? Like, there's so many forms of communication nowadays that, like, when you say, like, oh, I was, like, texting with this person, to me, I think that's just a regular text message through your phone. But let alone, now there's so many of these things, these apps that have text messaging that it's like, so I just need specifics, like, if you guys communicated about your relationship, like, on what messaging apps did that happen, and if it didn't happen on those messaging apps, then, like, how did it happen?
No, I know. I mean, even then, like, Valorant was, because we'd message on Discord or call and say, it's like, like, hey, let's hop on and, play a couple games or whatever. And it was just, like, when we'd play a game like that, it was just to enjoy the game and each other's company. But it was really, when it came to most of our talking, it was either text through Discord or calling on the phone.
Okay. So Valorant was more strictly for just, like, playing a game together in each other's company.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and Valorant's really just, I guess it was really random because we've played other games too. And so it was
Through Discord?
No, well,
Sorry, I'm new to this.
It's fine. We Discord is just there in the background, so you could still talk and I guess be on call with each other while you're playing these other games. And so even as we're playing Valorant, we're in a call on Discord talking to each other.
Okay. So would you consider, do you think that Sima considered you guys to be in a relationship these last 2 months while you were testing
Sima,
for lack of better terms, like testing the waters?
do I think that she considered me and her, or me and Fatiha?
You and her to be in a relationship?
No.
No. Okay. Did
No,
Fatiha think that you were in a relationship with Sima?
She
To your knowledge, like,
shouldn't have. I mean, I told her we were gonna try things when we met up in person.
you were gonna try things? What does that mean?
Well, like, if we were compatible, like, try dating.
Oh, okay.
Sima.
When you potentially moved down to Florida? Okay. But it's just gonna be you and Fatiha in a apartment or a house or wherever you.
Yes.
Okay. So these last couple months, essentially, you've been, for a lack of a better term, single. Like you were not with Fatiha because you were trying to express to her these feelings that you may have felt for Sima, and you didn't want to let it go unnoticed, and for there to be potential issues in the future.
Yes, but
if you and Fatiha worked out, like, long term, or worked out to have a relationship.
yes, but also, I cared for the both of them immensely, and they were.
I mean, you've been talking to them for years, it seems like. So, I mean,
at least like 5 years each, like
right. So that would
every day,
right,
for 6 years, and
every day, the both of them, or more Fatiha in the beginning, and then
every day for Fatiha. There was a break period or two with Sima.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty much every day, and I did care a lot for the both of them, and I respected Fatiha a lot, and everything she's done. She worked very hard at her job, just working extra hours, to make the money. And I really did, I guess, admire her determination and everything. And so, when we were talking about this kind of stuff and how I'm not sure if I feel the same, she asked me not to tell my friends that, and to tell, or not to, I guess, publicly talk about it, because she would have felt really embarrassed, I guess. Because, I mean, it makes sense for me to say, it's like, I was talking to Fatiha, but I think I might like her sister more, you know, and you know, she asked me not to tell people that, because she would hate that, and so I respected her request, and I mean, up until what happened, everyone thought I was with Fatiha. All of my friends, and I'm pretty sure her family too. Because, you know, Saima also didn't want her family to know. It was like, oh, you know, you're trying to get with your sister's boyfriend, you know.
Sure.
It would have created the divide
Right.
between them, and yeah.
Did you and Saima, do you have a Snapchat?
Yes.
What's your, I guess, what's your name on Snapchat? I think I have.
I don't use it that often. I'm trying to remember my username. Do I have to be exact with it? Because I'm not sure if I can be exact with it right now.
Just whatever you think it might be.
I think it's like patty flipping or something. I made it when I was like 12. So.
It's okay. Patty flipping, like P-A-T-T-I?
Yeah, Y.
Y?
P-A-T-T-Y. Patty flipping. I think so.
F-L-I-P-P-I-N...
G.
Okay. Potentially. Okay, just, did you communicate with Saima through, Snapchat?
Occasionally. Rarely. Discord has, a limit, on how large of a file you could send over it, for when it comes to media. So, you know, some pictures are too high resolution to send, and like longer videos really longer than like 7-10 seconds won't send.
On Discord?
On Discord, and so
Okay.
we'd mainly use Snapchat for that.
So you use Snapchat for longer videos
Yes.
and files?
Yeah.
Or bigger files, I guess, for longer videos and larger
Yes.
files. Okay. I just want to, because, I mean, I'm sure you know how, like, Snapchat, works. But, like, sometimes there's, like, message history. So, I guess, you know, like, so for my job, it's to see, like, is there any truth to what, like, everyone's telling me? Because, you know, at the end of the day, like, you have a side of your, like, a side of events. She has a side of her events. I'm sure Saima would have had a side of her events. And then somewhere in the middle, there might potentially be, like, the actual truth. Because, you know, saying something to somebody versus, like, it being in a message, you know, sometimes
It's a lot more
it can be interpreted differently.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So, and even a text message, you can interpret it multiple ways, but at least it's like concrete. Like, it came from you, she said this to you, type deal, you know, versus like,
I think she said
I
this.
think she said this, I think she did that.
I think she meant yes.
So yeah, so my job is to just, you know, look at all these messagings between you guys and see, is there validity to anything that's been told to me? Can I prove or disprove any of that? So it's not like, you know, unfortunately, like, yes, I'm asking to be in your business, but like, the reason I'm doing it is because, like, we have to corroborate everything. We can't just like take someone's word for what they're saying. Even though I don't think you're necessarily lying to me, you might not want to tell me everything, or you might be holding back on something because it's embarrassing, or because you don't, you know, you just don't want to tell me, and that's fine. But, so that's kind of like why I'm asking about this stuff. I believe I already have like most of your information from like the other sisters, like your Discord, which I believe, I'm just going to confirm with you, your Discord is, I forgot, but it's like shit stain or something, right?
Yeah,
Shit stain, like, and some numbers. Did you make that one a long time ago too, or just having a bad day that day? Like the
both,
nickname.
I guess.
Shit stain 8
Yes.
essentially, and then it's like AKA Joe Peg, Joe.peg.
Oh,
What's that about?
Names on Discord, I mean, can be changed on a whim. They're not
Oh,
like
okay.
a username you make at the beginning and it sticks with you.
Okay, so you can change it.
You change it over and over. So I mean, it's that now. I could
For
just
now.
change it tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
The
You
Joe.
could change the whole thing, or the Joe, or you just talking about
everything
the Joe?
but the number.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
you technically can change the number if you buy Discord Nitro. It's like a subscription kind of thing. But I
Sure.
don't do
Okay.
that.
But when you were having conversations with Sima and Fatiha, that was your username. I guess, is that how you call it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what they told me. They showed me a picture.
Mhm.
Like, I don't really think that, you know. And then Valorant, how does that work? Is it like a username? Like, how do you associate you to Valorant?
Like what my name on Valorant would be? Is that
Yeah.
Sleepy Gopher?
Like,
Like a
like an actual animal.
Gopher, yeah.
Gopher. Is that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Is there any numbers or?
I think it's capital S, capital G, lowercase everything else. I'm not 100% sure because, I mean, this is a very old username, and so
Okay.
most of my usernames are like, sometimes, it's taken already somehow, and so like the O would be a 0, or
Gotcha.
like on PlayStation it is, but if I can get it like that, just capital S, capital G, it should be that.
Okay. Okay. Would you, and I mean, I realistically know that your relationship with Fatiha and even Sima were, an online relationship. You met Fatiha once.
Mm-hmm.
Did you and Fatiha ever talk about, like, getting married or being engaged or anything to that extent?
Well, yes and no. I wasn't really interested in that kind of thing, but we flirted a lot between each other for a long time, me and Fatiha. And just kind of like a kind of thing where you call each other like hubby, husband, whatever, or like let's get engaged kind of thing. And I was under the assumption that it was like a serious thing. But as like time went on, and I realized like, oh, I do think she's serious. We talked about it around the same time.
About being married or being engaged or
engaged.
both? Okay. Just she thought,
well,
she seemed to be more like...
I thought I started to get the impression that it was a lot more real to her, because I really don't even remember, talking about this, but like I said, she remembers everything for me. I have very splotchy memory, and so I just took her word for it. But the more she talked about it, I was like, was I very serious at that time? And so she's taking it very seriously, and so we talked about it like 2 months ago, around the same time when we talked about just being friends, and I made sure it's like, hey, like we're not like engaged, right? That, and from my memory, she said yes, that she knows, and it wasn't like official serious thing for
Okay.
her.
It's just things that you talked about in the past, and because of the way that she is, you felt like she took that conversation about being engaged or getting married more serious than you did back in the day, and then you had to like reiterate just to make sure you guys were both on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure. I mean, it sounds kind of silly saying this because I know this is your job. But I mean, if there's any, I guess, inconsistencies, with what I'm saying and what she's saying, like, I'm fine with answering them because I obviously never knew she had something like this in her. But
that's basically the kind of the next questions is, did she ever talk to you about wanting to cause her sister harm?
Not
even if it was a joke. Because it sounds like you said they're possessive. Like she.
Yes.
So realistically, like she probably. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think she wanted to share you, but she didn't want to dismiss your feelings, and she didn't want to lose you over this, and thought maybe we can get through this, and I'll just still be here type deal. So, and I'm not saying she maliciously was like, I'm gonna kill my sister and like you wait and see, like I'm not saying like that, but like what did she say about her sister? Like how did this make her feel towards her sister?
They lived in the same room for a very long time, and I do think they were a lot closer before I came there. I mean, it sounds kind of, I guess, rude, but it was kind of a situation where Fatiha was never very fond of Saima. They never clicked the same way. Because of, I guess, Saima's personality around the house it seemed like a very uncaring, or I guess not really thinking of others when she does things.
Saima?
Yeah, that was Fatiha's view on Saima.
Okay.
And especially after everything, came to light about us talking, and so she really didn't like talking to her. And she told me and like I said, I have very splotchy memory, I have very poor memory, and even though I doubt myself a lot, I at least feel like I have a strong hold on how I would react to certain information.
Okay.
And so Fatiha called me after she had done it, the murder, and we talked a bit, and I was one of the things she said was like, I told you that like I had violent thoughts about her, and stuff, which I really barely remember, but I know that if she would have told me that, like because when I hear violent thoughts, it doesn't seem, I don't automatically assume, oh, she's close to murdering someone, because I feel like it's a very, I guess, normal thing to me. It's like, oh, like I want to punch my boss in the face,
Right,
I want to.
Yeah. Violent could be, it's a broad term. We know what it means, like in a sense, but like there's multiple ways to be violent.
I mean, if I knew, it would be like it was anywhere near this serious,
What would I guess be an example that you could recall, like that she may have said something about Saima that she would consider violent, or that even you would consider to be a violent?
That's something that she said she planned to do, or something she felt about, like
Saima.
something she wanted.
Yeah, like because she told you I had violent thoughts about her. Okay, well, like what
Nothing.
What were those violent thoughts? Like
I don't know.
Or you can't recall specifically.
I mean, if I can't remember, I don't.
Had she ever told you she thought about killing her sister?
No, I had no idea. On the phone call, she specifically told me, because I told her I was still kind of in disbelief and in shock, because it was just so random, because I was talking to the both of them very normally. I didn't really suspect anything wrong, and she told me that she specifically didn't tell me that she was going to do this because she knew that I would try and stop her. And so she purposely didn't let me know that she was planning something like this. And that's why she didn't come to me with it. I mean, the only thing out of the ordinary that I noticed in her behavior recently was that she's normally a very, I guess someone would say like a penny pincher, kind of like doesn't like to spend her money. You know, if something goes up by like 30 cents, it's like, oh, I can't buy that anymore. And she doesn't like to spend her money unless it's something very necessary or something very, I guess, just much needed. And I noticed she's been spending money, like more. She went to Universal with her sister, and just kind of like randomly. And I thought, I knew she was upset by everything that happened, and I took it as, oh, she's not holding on to all of her money for me. She's starting to be okay with spending it to enjoy herself and spend time with her other sister. And I thought it was a positive thing at the time. I thought she was just.
So it's like something you noticed about her. She used to like save every nickel and dime, and then like more recently she kind of was like being a little more relaxed with her spending.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did she? Did you know that she had an Amazon account?
Yes.
Okay. Did she ever tell you what she purchased on Amazon or off of Amazon? Would she ever tell you about her purchases?
No.
Okay.
I didn't even know about the stuff that she would send me most of the time. She would just kind of do it.
Oh, she would send you stuff from Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she sent me things before.
Okay. And so tell me about that phone call on the 26th, because it was like a 40-minute phone conversation. So tell me about the day of the homicide when you received that call. Like, what was the context of that call?
Well, me and Fatiha always call on Discord.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time we called on the phone. And I was playing a game at the moment, and I noticed my phone was ringing, and it was a phone call from her. And I knew that since it was a phone call, that she's really trying to get a hold of me. It's like, oh, I should answer this. Because I didn't know she was. I checked later after I picked up the phone, and I saw that she's been trying to reach me. Just maybe like 40 minutes or so on Discord, and I picked it up, and I'm already worried because it must be urgent if she's trying this hard to reach me.
Right.
And she says, I think I'm going to jail. And I say, I was like, and anyone, because my friends have heard her talking, they've interacted and stuff, and I'd say most people that have met her, she's a very like sweet and innocent person. Just you'd never expect like violent outbursts or acts of rage from her. It's just so hard to picture mentally. And so I immediately thought, it's like, oh no, she might have accidentally hit someone with her car and killed them, and just worried about going to jail. Or like I really thought it was an accident. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, are you sure? Like this isn't funny. If this is a joke. And she was, I guess, kind of laughing, but I know it was like a nervous laughter. She laughs when she's, I guess, just nervous and freaking out.
Okay.
And she told me, she said I killed her, and I immediately, of everyone, I knew who it would be, and it's, I didn't realize, I guess you would have the call logged to know it's 40 minutes. I didn't know it was 40 minutes. And I'm trying to think what we could have said for those 40 minutes, but I know a lot of it was just a back and forth. It's like why, like, why didn't you tell me it was this bad beforehand? How did you do it? And like, it just, because I really, there was a part of me that really wanted to cling on to the belief that it's just a terrible joke or like a test to see what I'd say or something, even though it's not really something she would do. But I would never want to believe the truth of what happened.
Right.
And she said, like, why, like, how could you do this? I said something, it's like, how could you do this? And she said, I just couldn't bear to see you with her. I just couldn't let it happen. And it was a lot of, I guess, just back and forth about that. It was me, because I was angry, and I was just kind of, I was feeling a lot of everything, and I was just like, you didn't trust me enough to talk to me, beforehand, and, like, this is crazy, like, this is insane. I'm trying to remember more. A lot of it was just...
It seems like you guys were pretty open with each other about your feelings. You and Fatiha. Prior to this. So, like, was it seems like the way you're expressing it to me, it seems shocking. That this occurred. And she couldn't give you, any sort of warning or, like, something more than...
As far as I've known, as far as I know, and that I've ever experienced, because she was never really the type to hide things from me. After that, like, initial, she wasn't really comfortable showing her face and all that, but, like, after all that, there was nothing really that I've ever noticed or caught her on that she'd ever hide from me. And so her planning to kill her sister was the first thing that she's ever just truly hidden from me, I felt. And so, but yeah,
Has, you said that it was obviously shocking, like, she's a sweet and innocent type of person, so, like, is it known for her to get really upset and, like, act crazy, or say something that's, like, so, like, left field that it's like, whoa, like,
no.
That was a big jump. No?
She would get upset, but when she would get upset, she would just kind of pout and like, look the other way, just not speak to you. It was very non-confrontational.
To your knowledge, well, you had mentioned, like, in the beginning, and you've mentioned it, like, throughout the interview, but that you had contemplated taking your own life when you had first met Fatiha, and that you didn't really expect to be here, within the next couple of years of when you met, and that you said that you and Fatiha were like-minded in a sense. Was there ever, like...
She wasn't suicidal.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking. She wasn't... she didn't really have a strong life goal or a direction that she was really pursuing.
Okay.
But it was nothing like that. We talked about, like, we talked about how after I would pass, she would continue on.
Okay.
And but yeah, I mean that was really just a me thing.
Did so to your knowledge, like did she ever tell you she took medicine for anything?
Medicine
Mm-hmm.
or anything? Not that I'd. She tried, I think, Plan B for a bit just to see what it would do to her.
Okay.
Um,
But like no medicine for like mental health or like
Mhm.
she wasn't like diagnosed with anything.
no, not that I know of.
Okay. Okay. And you had mentioned a couple of times that about getting your GED. So you did not complete high school?
I dropped out. Well, I dropped out of high school. Well, I started taking online in ninth grade and then dropped out of online school.
You dropped out of online school, you said in like ninth grade?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, it was I would say 2 years after I would start ninth grade because I did ninth and then I repeated because I stopped going and then I did online and then I was kind of slow on that, so and we're paying for it, so it's like, well, you're not doing it, so we'll just
So you repeated ninth grade and then you went to online and then you weren't like succeeding or wanting to do that, so essentially you dropped out from there.
Slow on it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so never completed ninth grade. Okay. And are you diagnosed with anything? Or do you not go to the doctors? Or?
Around the time when I met Fatiha, I started taking antidepressants.
Okay.
It was very new, and we were just trying to see, I guess, just how much I would need.
Okay.
And so every week or a couple of weeks, it would just up the milligrams by like 5 or 10 or whatever.
Okay.
And I mean, I didn't really. It also, like I said, at that time specifically, I was very, very stressed out, and so I still kind of felt like garbage all the time, anyways, and I thought about it, and whether they're working or not, I wouldn't really be able to tell right now, anyways.
So you've been taking them this entire time?
No,
or you just
I
experimented
stopped.
in the beginning to kind of see?
I experimented and then I stopped taking them. I kind of
Okay.
just stopped caring to take them.
Okay. And I'm assuming, like, this was it like over the counter or something you could purchase, or did you actually go to a doctor to get a prescription for the antidepressants?
Prescription.
Prescription. So you went to like a doctor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what the exact medication was.
No, it's okay. But what I'm saying is, like, you've sought help for the things that you battle.
I tried for a bit. It's
Okay.
kind of on and off.
Sure.
But,
Okay. Okay. Do you know off the top of your head, Sima's Discord name?
Right now, I think it's Princess Robot Bubblegum. It was the name of a character from a game.
Okay. What about Fatia's?
Blonde Pyre. Blonde, like BLONDE, and then PIRE.
Do you remember numbers or no?
No.
Okay, it's okay. Vampire, and then you said princess robot what? Bubblegum?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think is important for me to know that I haven't asked you? So, Fatiha told you how she murdered her sister?
I asked her,
Okay.
and she said with a knife.
Okay.
And I was still at a point where, like, I know she doesn't lie like this, but it was just so out of left field that I didn't know. I didn't fully believe her yet, and I almost asked, to see the body and to see if it was real. But I mean, if it was real, I don't think I would have been able to handle that. And so I just kind of left it at that.
Did she say anything about wanting to take her own life?
She did. She said that after she did it, she was going to take her own life. But she called me instead.
But she called you instead.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't call you till like the evening time?
I think this was the morning, actually.
How many times did you talk to her on the day of the homicide?
To Fatiha?
Mm-hmm.
Just that phone call. And then we didn't talk.
Again?
No, I didn't know.
The phone call you saying to your phone. Like, you said she was trying to get you on Discord, but
she didn't reach me.
Right, so you're saying the phone call...
The phone call where she told me she did it on my phone, my number.
Okay.
And
that was one time that you guys spoke on that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess about the phone call, I guess the only parts I left out was I was getting real frustrated that it didn't really seem like she had remorse, or she didn't it wasn't like I messed up and I did this kind of thing. It was just like I just couldn't let this happen,
Right.
And at the end, she asked me, do you still want to talk to me, or are you not going to talk to me anymore? And I told her, just I don't, how could I, after this? And I just told her to go, and I told her not to talk to my friends, and but I did make her promise. At this point I didn't know how much a kept promise would really mean to her after doing something like this, but I did ask her to promise me that she wouldn't kill herself, because I hate what happened and what she did, but I wouldn't want her to take her own life, and but yeah, that happened. The phone call ended, and I messaged her on Discord a couple days later, just because I was so out of the loop, and she said she was gonna talk to her older sister about it, and I said, go do that. And so, because she was gonna talk to her older sister, she didn't say I'm gonna turn myself in or any of that, and no one was really talking to me, at the point, and so I didn't know what was going on, whether she was gonna get arrested, or if she was gonna try and pull something. I just had no idea, and so I messaged, but I didn't realize by that point she was already arrested.
Gotcha.
So.
Do you know if when you were did she talk to you about talking to anyone other than her older sister?
No, on our phone call, but we had a friend, it was one of my friends that I guess became the closest with her. She actually sent him a lot of her money to hold on to, in the event that something would happen to her, because she didn't want it going to her father. Pretty much everyone in that household is on bad terms with the father.
Okay.
And I didn't know about this until after, he told me. But it turns out after I told her, like, not to talk to my friends, and like, I can't be talking to you. I can't talk to you right now. She did take the money back from him. But I guess in terms of talking to someone, I guess that friend is the only one that I know. I mean, she didn't tell him anything that she did, or he wasn't involved in any way.
Do you know how she communicated with him or sent him money?
I think the money was through PayPal, and communication I think might have been on Snapchat. But I mean, he wasn't in the know-how at all. It was just...
Sure. What's his name on Snapchat?
I believe it's Poker. Poker.
Do you know his real name?
It's Jamil. Jamil, I believe.
Do you know his last name or just his first name?
No, just his first name.
Okay. You guys met, like, online?
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in Florida. Actually, I used to live in Miami, and I moved up here, and I just didn't really click with anyone. So all my friends are
Like
online
Florida friends? Or, okay.
I have some Florida friends also that I still keep in touch from Florida, but they're all just online or Florida friends from like 7 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
The same friends.
Okay. Did she mention anything about her, because she got an older sister and then a younger sister. Did she mention anything about her younger sister?
Mariam?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she mentioned anything about her at the time. Oh wait, I think she might have said that she was... I think she did say that she was going to take her own life, but Mariam came in and stopped her.
Okay.
And yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm just trying to remember exactly what her herself told me, because I did talk with Mariam after the event, and we talked a bit about it, and so just trying to make sure what info came from who, kind of. I think she did tell me that.
Okay. Anything else you think is important? Did Fatiha tell you, like, how long she had, like, thought about harming Sama?
No, I mean, I didn't know she would harm her. I didn't think she
I'm
had
talking
it in
about
her.
once it occurred. Like, did you ever ask, like, how long have you been feeling this or thought about doing this or anything? Have you asked her anything to that extent?
I don't think so.
Okay. I know we've talked about a lot, but I feel like I have a decent understanding of, like, a quick rundown, at least enough to kind of help me understand the relationships from your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos, do you have anything?
Once the phone call ended, what did you do?
I was just feeling very, I guess, numb. I didn't really know how to feel. There's so much of like, I mean, all the negative emotions I could think of on top of just like disbelief and just hope that it's not real. And I didn't really know what to think. And I'm not really a drinking person. I don't really smoke or drink. It's never been my thing. But it was really just a lot to think about. And so right after the phone call, I immediately went to the food line over there and just tried looking to see if something could, I guess, calm me down a bit, or at least help me distract myself. So I went and grabbed a drink immediately after.
When did it settle in? Like, it was for real? Like, did anybody else call you? Like, how did you know that this legit happened?
Well, I mean, the whole time I wasn't getting any message from Saima, and as time went on, you know, I'd say it was a part of me, because I knew she doesn't lie. I knew that Fatiha doesn't lie, really. At least not to me. That this was probably real, but I don't think I like fully just embraced and accepted that this was the reality and that it was permanent until a couple days after. When Saima hasn't messaged me at all in 3 days, and I mean, everyone's I'm trying to think. I think Mariam wasn't talking either. Everyone just seemed very odd.
When you say everyone, are you talking like everybody in like your Discord group or your Skype group?
I say everyone. I guess it was just the group. Saima wasn't responding. Fatiha wasn't saying anything.
And this group that you're telling me, it's all pretty much the gamers group?
Huh?
Is it all like gamers? Are you all gamers in that group chat?
The one that Mariam showed a screenshot of is, I guess, was previously like a gamers thing, but for of other people, the only people I really know in there are like Mariam and Fatiha.
Okay.
In that server. The one I was talking about with me and my friends is a different server.
But still on Discord?
Still on Discord, yes.
Okay. And these people are people that you came in contact because you guys share interests?
Yes.
Which is for gaming?
Yes.
Okay.
While you're thinking, if there's anything else that's important, I'm gonna look over a couple things.
When you said you were talking, when you broke up with Fatiha, when you mean talking, do you mean just like texting, or do you mean like a little more serious relationship?
Talking to who?
You mentioned that you had you broken up with Fatiha, is that correct? And in that moment you were speaking to, at that point, once you were done with Fatiha, was it Saima? Am I saying that correctly?
Saima.
Saima. You mentioned that you were talking to her. When you mean talking, do you mean just like, hey, how you doing? Or are you talking like a little more relationship?
More.
Okay. And then, how did she found out? Like, Fatiha, like, did you guys tell her like this is going on, or did she like saw that? Like, how do you think that she found out about?
Well, a while ago, at least a year ago, I think I said earlier in the interview that she found out through me and Saima's. We had a playlist together on Spotify, and it was named something, I guess, very flirty, and she saw it, and for me that was fine, because I mean, it was due time that we talked about it anyways.
Okay.
Because up until that point, I was still, during that time, like, I wasn't sure if it would really lead into anything, or if this was just like a fling for fun kind of thing, but as I realized, like, I really am not okay with losing her, like, I don't want to lose her, and stuff. Like, we do need to sort this out.
I know you mentioned earlier in the interview that at some point you had crossed your mind to have like a polygamous relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
What was their reaction when you insinuated or you suggested that? Like, they get offended? Was it more like, hey, like...
I knew they wouldn't be
receptive?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a lot to ask, for just an average person, and I mean, like, especially, like, I knew how possessive Samia was, but I thought that I could have a chance at... I thought that, I mean, because it was absurd, but if something this, if there was a chance, I guess, for me to start enjoying life more, then I thought this... If this wouldn't be it, then I can't see anything else being it,
Right. And then were they both not receptive to it, or was it just one of them?
Well, they weren't initially receptive to it. We were all kind of open to it for a while, until, it just eventually was just clear that it wouldn't work. Because we talked about it with each other, and because it was really just me that wanted that from the beginning.
Right.
And I did talk with them and try and, like, I'll try my best, to try and make this into a situation where everyone can still, be okay with this, but I wasn't able to do that, obviously. And
in that 40-minute conversation, was that the last time that you spoke with her?
Yes.
No texting or anything like that after?
No.
Alright, is there anything else that you think is important for me to say before I turn off the recorder?
I can't really think of anything. I guess that would be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, you covered kind of like all the basis in a sense. You did a pretty decent job actually at explaining everything. Can you just raise your right hand for me? Can you swear that everything you talked about has been true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
It sends a recording 14:53.